Greetings, unsettled souls, and welcome to The Correct Views. Sam I.B. DeGangi reporting for The Media Speaks, and we have a ton of news to get to. I do want to say real quick to new listeners especially, make sure you listen to the whole show. I've had people tune in for something, and when it's not addressed in the first 2 minutes of the show, they automatically think it's not in the show. Listen to the whole show before you comment. Also, if you're going to hit dislike, by all means, do so. Give a reason. I'm interested to see what that is. I bet you most of them are the fact that I clown his hip-hop. Mark my words. Alright guys, Infowars.com. This was terrifying. Zombie apocalypse. Ebola patients reportedly rise from the dead. And it's terrifying, not for the reason that you think. So just pay attention to this, because it's Alan Salazar here, writing about something that's going to really be spooky for you, and not in the way that you think. How many of you have seen Serpent in the Rainbow, if you want a hint? As the incurable Ebola virus continues to tear through African nations, comparisons have been drawn between the disease's victims and the Walking Dead of horror movie lore. But a new revelation from one of the afflicted regions may add credence to the mythology. A new report from the Dawn, Liberia purports that not one, but 2 Ebola patients from Nimba County who had died from the disease mysteriously came back to life, to residents' disbelief right before their funerals. The Ebola patients who died of the virus in separate communities in Nimba County have reportedly resurrected in the county. The victims, both females believed to be in their late 60s and 40s respectively, died of the Ebola virus recently in Hope Village community and Catholic community in Nimba. But to the amazement of residents and onlookers, it says, on Monday the deceased reportedly regained life in total disbelief. The New Dawn Limba County correspondent said the late Boris Coy of Hope Village community and the second victim, only identified as Makiba, said to be in her late 60s, were about to be taken for burial when they resurrected. The report goes on to claim that the victim's supposed resurrection has reportedly created panic in residents of Hope Village community in Ganta at large, with some rejecting the newly resurrected as ghosts who couldn't live among them. According to the New Dawn, this is the first known occurrence of Ebola zombieism. Now, for those of you that are like, oh, it's the zombie apocalypse, no, it's scarier than that. As one reader at the allafrican.com points out, the most reasonable explanation is that the victims likely had never actually died, but were probably still alive in comatose states. You don't see that a lot in this country because we embalm people and all of that. So when you see someone in a casket in an American funeral home, you can rest assured that they're dead. If the news is factual, it could give meaning to the federal and state and local preparedness drills and training exercises being carried out for zombie life forms created after an organism is infected by a virus or bacteria, and there's a link for that story. Here is what is terrifying about it, my friends. The macabre question has been asked at this point: how many other supposedly dead patients have been buried alive? Yes, there you go. That, my friends, is what's frightening. And you don't want to go conducting autopsies on people that died of Ebola. You want to get them buried. They're telling people, wisely so, this is good advice, do this. If it ever makes it to any Ebola community, please do this. When someone dies, get rid of the body. I understand it. However, it does create a problem in making sure that they are dead. One solution would be, once somebody has died of the disease and you are certain that they are, of low respiration, certain drugs will make sure they're dead. But then you run the risk of actually killing somebody who may have recovered, like these people did. So that's today's very frightening news. Many of you have tuned in for the Second Amendment news. We have a lot of it. This is from news.yahoo.com. U.S. Capitol votes to allow concealed firearms. This is a massive victory that you're not hearing about anywhere on the mainstream media. How could this be the case? Could you please tell me how this isn't a big case? Can you also say real loud and proud, Adam Korkish was right? Good job, Adam Korkish. God bless you. For those of you that don't know, he's the man that got arrested for this about a year ago, last 4th of July. City council members voted unanimously, but reluctantly Tuesday, to allow residents and visitors alike to carry concealed weapons in the street's capital. Notice reluctant to give somebody their God-given rights. The measure replaces Washington's long-standing ban on carrying firearms in public, with a federal judge in July declared unconstitutional. We really don't want to move forward with allowing more guns in the District of Columbia, said council member Muriel Bowser, a frontrunner in the city's mayoral election in November. But we all know we have to be compliant to what the courts say, she was quoted by the Washington Post newspaper. So you automatically know if you're in that district that you don't want to vote for her because she's not really on your side. Strict regulation remains in place, however, until July, when the U.S. District Court judge ruled that a prohibition on carrying guns in public has violated the U.S. Constitution. That is remarkable news. Tough gun laws are credited in part with helping to bring down Washington's once notorious homicide rate. Yeah, what it did was it armed the criminals. That is all it did. In every instance where you legalize guns, the gun murder rate goes down. This is mathematical fact. You can find it in every possible study. It's also, of course, illegal to carry them in schools and hospitals where, criminals go now to shoot people because they know that they're unarmed. 10th Amendment Center.com, Second Amendment, original meaning and purpose. I'm going to read this because I think it needs to be heard. It's really not that long, but it's very, very wise. I'm probably not going to read the whole thing, but you'll get it. When the Constitution was signed on September 17th of 1789, I think that's when Ruth Bader Ginsburg was born, Federalists claimed the new government would only have limited powers expressly delegated to it. This wasn't enough for anti-federalists like George Mason, who wanted explicit guarantees to certain rights in order to prevent any political encroachment by the federal government. Yeah, but I thought the Second Amendment was for hunting. One of them was the right to keep and bear arms. Mason wrote, a well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people, trained to arms, is the proper and natural and safe defense of a free state. The Founding Fathers, having just broken away from Great Britain, understood that the new federal government that they were ratifying might one day become just as tyrannical. If it had the authority to control citizens' access to firearms, then it could disarm them. This is exactly what Hitler did in the 40s, 30s. It's what Stalin did in Russia. And it's what the Founding Fathers were worried was going to happen to us when we left England. The Second Amendment was specifically included in the Bill of Rights to prevent this from happening. 2 centuries later, that would be today, my dear Usher fans, we are in an ideological struggle with gun control advocates attempting to alter the meaning of the Second Amendment in order to allow the federal restrictions on our right to bear arms. Again, as quoted as God-given. Not surprisingly, they completely ignore what the ratifiers of the Constitution and the Second Amendment had to say because all pertinent historical documents contradict them. In other words, they don't want you to know what I'm about to read to you. For example, when the founders wrote a well-regulated militia, they meant militias needed to be well-regulated through training and drilling in order to be effective in combat. This would only happen if citizens had unrestricted access to firearms. James Madison, who was the father of the Constitution, said in 1789 that a well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people trained to arms is the best and most natural defense of a free country. For example, of a well-regulated militia, under Mason's definitions, were the Minutemen at Concord and Lexington, who had drilled on fields in preparation of war. In other words, they were meant to be against any possible standing army, as well as encroachment from elected officials. As the meaning of the word militia has nothing to do with the National Guard, there is already a clause in the Constitution that specifically authorizes arming the National Guard. So what is a militia as defined by the founders? Mason said they were the whole people except for a few public officials. The average Joe. In fact, there was a universal acceptance among both Federalists and Anti-Federalists as to the importance of the right to bear arms. Alexander Hamilton wrote in the Federalist 28 that if the representatives of the people betray their constituents, there then is no recourse left but to the exertion of the original right to self-defense, a right which was declared to be paramount. And then there is the shall not be infringed. There is no exception. Zachariah Johnson, it says, a delegate of the Virginia Ratifying Convention, summed up the meaning of the Second Amendment when he declared that the people are not to be disarmed of their weapons. They are left in full possession of them. Not some, not most. Full possession. The founders made this very clear. Now, you can see why I read that. I'm not going to spend all day reading the computer screen, but that was well worded and well said and concise. Fred's Kit Daniels, PrisonPlanet.com. Facebook bans gun owners, allows kitten torture video. This was going to be nominated for the Dunce Cap of the Month award, but I've got too many dumdies to get to for the show. So I didn't include it. It didn't even make the dumdy of the day, but it did fit into the Second Amendment thing that I was doing. And there's a bigger point here. Facebook is saying that the burning of a kitten, which is, how sick can you be? The burning of a kitten is better than someone's right to bear arms and defend themselves. That's what they are saying. Facebook has no problem with a kitten torture video on its site, but when Facebook users talk about guns, the social media giant will censor them with zeal. I have put this on Zuckerberg's page. Anybody watching this, feel free to put this on his page. I have no problem with it at all. Recently, a video was posted on Facebook showing two men lighting a helpless kitten in a bucket on fire. But after multiple users flagged the video, Facebook told them that it doesn't violate our community standards. No, not at all. It's the kind of story that my mom couldn't even sit through without crying. I was going through Facebook and I saw this video, user Carrion Dunwell told the Daily Mail. I clicked on it, watched it, and was disgusted. I reported it to Facebook. It took 5 or 6 hours for them to get back to me, and they said that it was perfectly fine to have it there. However, when users attempt to talk about guns or post pictures of firearms, Facebook hits them with community standard violations. A few years ago, gun rights activist Gary Emery was banned from Facebook, and there's a link proving it, after sharing an article explaining in ways in which Connecticut's gun ban is worse than Hitler's gun ban, and it was, and I stand by it, and you may put me saying that on Facebook. His post, which also included an image stating that gun control helped make the Holocaust possible, doesn't follow Facebook community standards. Well, you know what? Hitler took the guns away from the Jews couldn't shoot back, and the Jews got killed. So you can put me on Facebook saying that, too. You're temporarily blocked from posting, Facebook told Emery. This temporary block will last 30 days, and you won't be able to post on Facebook until it's finished. You've repeatedly posted things that aren't allowed on Facebook, read the community standards, and learn what kinds of posts aren't allowed. Similarly, last year, Facebook deactivated the page of a Pennsylvania gun store without warning, another link, after the store owners announced his intent to raffle off an AR-15, a perfectly legal thing to do, with a weapon. Our guidelines prohibit that, it says, but no. You can't, and there's other examples here. You can't do something like that on Facebook. No, but you can show a cat getting burnt to death. And again, I'm not for banning either one. If you're sick enough to watch that, then go right ahead. But I hope other people know what you watched if you liked it or something twisted like that, so that people can stay away from you too, you nutcase. So Facebook doesn't have a problem with viewing videos showing views of a kitten mewing in agony while in flames, but sharing an image of a Remington 700 on a Harris tripod could get them banned. It happened in March. There's a link for that as well. It says the hypocrisy of a microcosm of gun control. Despite what anti-gun advocates suggest, gun control is not meant to stop violence, but rather it is meant to restrict rights. Friends, I got one more story on the gun issue here. How many of you know that Bloomberg, the former mayor idiot of New York City, the one who thought that it is, as a matter of fact, perfectly okay to racially profile somebody or just do stop and frisks of anybody walking down the street? That's what he was in favor of. He also limits gun ownership rights in every way that he can. He's tried to limit your fast food. He doesn't want you to be able to carry a big Mountain Dew. Again, I think Mountain Dew is poison. I drink it very rarely. Should you be allowed to be stupid? Yes, drink it if you want. It's none of the government's business. Well, this man who has gone after our rights, are you ready for this? Mikhail Thalen, Prison Planet. Bloomberg receives French award for supporting the ideals of liberty. That's like saying that Hitler supported gun rights. This doesn't make any sense. Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg traveled to France this week to receive the country's top civilian honor. This is the dumbest thing I've heard since Obama getting the Nobel Peace Prize. The Légion d'honneur, an award that embodies the ideals of liberty, was given to Bloomberg by Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius Tuesday on the Croix d'Orsay. Many thanks at Laurent Fabius of the French Legion of Honor, which embodies the ideals of liberty and nation share. And there's a picture from Bloomberg. He posted it on Twitter. The former mayor took to social media to thank Fabius, who also tweeted his excitement in giving Bloomberg the insignia of commander. Well, that's just great. Yeah, standing up for liberties. Bloomberg joined several other high-profile recipients, including Arnold Schwarzenegger, Get Down, Alan Greenspan, and U2's Bono. The trip was also used by Bloomberg to push for government solutions on climate change. Oh, well, that's just great. Yeah, climate change doesn't hurt us any. This happened, it says, only days after satellite images revealed that the Arctic ice cover to be at record high levels. But let's see what some of Bloomberg's done here. Bloomberg is a staunch opponent of anti-Second Amendment, and that is eliminating your right to carry guns. But he has countless bodyguards who are armed to the teeth. What else does he do? He wants to ban large sodas. We covered that. It says in the last article that Mr. Thalen wrote, the former mayor even pushed Governor Andrew Cuomo to not approve a bill legalizing holiday sparklers. According to Bloomberg, sparklers on the 4th of July would undoubtedly benefit terrorists seeking to harm innocent lives. We've talked about the stop and frisk, all the things this guy does. And somehow we're supposed to believe that he gets an award in France for liberty. I am telling you, if there is a God, when I get to heaven, I'm not stopping to be interviewed, Bloomberg said. I'm heading straight in. I have earned my place in heaven. It's not even close. Yeah, Mr. Bloomberg. Yeah. Friends, you're listening to The Correct Views. There's still 2 stories left. Don't go anywhere. I got the Dumdy of the day coming. Don't go anywhere. You're going to want to hear it. It's a big Dumdy. I just want you to know that at Cedar Point, the amusement park, for everybody anywhere in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, you know you're going because it's Halloween weekends. You know you want to go to the haunted houses. I have gone there. They are amazing, and I'm hoping to go again this weekend. When you go there, you're going to want to stay 2 days. It's actually cheaper to do so in the long run, and you're going to need a place to stay. Where should that place be? It should be the Seacrest Motel, because Vicky at the Seacrest is going to give you a great room with a comfy bed and a wonderful bathroom and everything you need to get rested for the next day of haunted housing and roller coaster riding. And she's going to do it at a fraction of the price that you're going to look at paying if you go to the Breakers or any of those high... Do you know the Breakers can charge between $127 to $600 for a room? You're going to pay much, eons less, mass amounts of money less by going to the Seacrest Motel and telling Vicky, Sam from TCV sent you. Lastly, you're going to want to go to the Arcadia Grill in Canton, Ohio if you like really good food. You like Italian food? Great. I love it. Might be able to tell by the chubs. Okay, great. Well, some of those chubs came from the Arcadia Grill. So why don't you carefully go down there and find yourself a seat, go up to the bar, order yourself a drink. It's going to be made right. Remember when they used to put alcohol in a drink? Great. So does the Arcadia Grill. Go down there and let them know that you heard about it from Sam on The Correct Views. Guys, two more stories to get to. You're going to be very happy that you hung around. If you hung around, leave a note in my comment line that said, I hung around. Let me know what your favorite charity is, and I will promote it on the next show as long as it's not hateful. Daily Caller wrote this. This is quite interesting, to say the very least, as we scroll down. Rush Limbaugh's call screener, what liberalism has done to black communities is horrific. In other words, what voting for Democrats has done to the black community is horrific. Keep in mind, Snerdy, as they call him, is Rush's call screener. He is a black man, okay? And before I get any hate on this, you guys all know how much I love my band. A member of my band is black, and I love the man dearly, so don't give me the race card. As a matter of fact, I won't even defend myself. I simply won't answer you. James Golden considers his 26 years working with Rush Limbaugh to be the greatest professional blessing he could ever imagine. You know, everybody says that Rush is so racist and so prejudiced. Well, Rush met him. They had a talk, and Rush gave him one of the best jobs in radio history in terms of behind-the-scenes jobs. How's that for a racist man? And again, I'm not here to stick up for Rush Limbaugh. He is way more culturally conservative than I am. He did nothing to help Ron Paul or Gary Johnson, who I supported. So I have a lot of issues with Rush, but this needed to be read. For the first half of the interview, Snerdy waxed passionate about race in America and how America's first black president has only harmed race relations in this country, and it's true. We didn't have this problem when I was growing up. Recalling when strong two-parent families were the norm for blacks. Yeah, it was. There used to be a time when African-American families were far stronger than white families. That's a matter of historical record. It says, when hard work and merit allowed blacks to rise in society, and when homicide wasn't the major cause of death for young black males. Did you hear that? Homicide is now the leading cause of death for young black people. Goldman said with genuine regret, isn't it a shame that for most black people, the good old days were the days when things were segregated legally in this country? Yes, that is very sad. He concludes, what liberalism has done to black communities is horrific. Touching on the horrors of the Philadelphia black abortionist Kenneth Gosnell and the depravity in black music, I'm going to pause there for a second. I am not saying that we need to go to the days of the PMRC censoring music. I was against that at 14, and I'm against it now. The problem is, you can take an African-American artist like The Heavy, the drummer for the band Suffocation. I'm covering many genres here. What's his name? The singer of Kill Switch Engage. Any African American that isn't dropping N-bombs here and there and isn't talking about shoddy and booty, they can't get any radio play. They are held down and idiots are elevated. Why do we have people like Drake on our radio stations? Because if you sign somebody with no talent, if he ODs or something, it is very, very easy to replace somebody with no talent with somebody else with no talent. If you sign someone like Led Zeppelin and your proverbial Jimmy Page dies, then you're screwed. They learned that lesson a long time ago. And it says, Golden said that they are the results of black people wanting to follow the ride down. They don't care about values. Al Sharpton and his bunch should be ashamed of themselves, he said, as they have let the issue of black life denigrate into a politically opportunistic issue. In other words, give it to me free. His answer? Black people need to value their own lives and quit expecting political hustlers to solve their problems. That is true. The official Obama criticizer said to listeners who are black, there are no Republicans in your neighborhoods. The problem is the people in your neighborhood. Obama's not coming to help you in your neighborhood unless you live in Martha's Vineyard or a golf course. In other words, Obama is hurting you, not helping you. Last thing I want to get to, guys, the Dundee of the day. Janet Yellen, to America's poor. What does our leader of the Fed say to America's poor? It is important to get rich. No shiznit! Remember when over the weekend we reported that America's poor have never been deeper in debt, following how this tragic development took place over the past few years, accelerating almost exponentially into the new norm? and in its proper context using one of our favorite charts, and it shows how awful it is, showing that while the rich hold assets, the poor are merely drowning in debt. So why do I report on this? Am I poor? No. Was I for most of my adult life? Yes. Well, Janet Yellen has a message for America's poor. Keep in mind I'm a DJ. I could be poor again tomorrow. The day after tomorrow's much-anticipated FOMC meeting, which will surely make the richest 1% in the nation even richer, Fed chairman will address everyone else as follows. The importance of asset building for low and middle class households. Not surprisingly, everyone else, namely America's low and middle class households, aren't even worth a live appearance, hence a pre-recorded video. But the punchline is the actual message, in which Janet Yellen tells those mired in debt to build more assets. That's like telling a man whose entire house is burnt down that he needs a glass of water to put out the fire. In other words, the Fed chairman has some words of encouragement for the tens of millions of Americans who live at or below the poverty level, including that threatened with extinction class, effectively known as the middle. In other words, the ever-shrinking middle class. Her message: it is important to build assets, or otherwise get rich. There you go, poor people. Your problems will be solved if you just get rich. Dummy of the day. Friends, you're listening to The Correct Views, who just brought you that dummity of the day. You can donate to this show and make it a better show at the correctviews@hotmail.com. Every penny that you give me goes to this show. I'm running 2 cameras here. I've got halogen lights all over, computers, research time. You can help all that, friends. Make sure you go to themediaspeaks.com, look up the work of Kyle Court D. Lake and myself. We are posting all the time. And if you get a chance, you got some reading time, you're doing some flying, you got some driving time, and you're the passenger, look up the written works of Mike McLaughlin. You can find him on Facebook. He is an amazing writer. He's in the Ohio area. Look him up and be very, very happy with what you see when you do. Good night, friends. God bless. And above all else, share this video. Thank you.